Ricky Starks is in the final of the Owen Hart Tournament. Who does he have to beat to be crowned champion? CM Punk. We're going to talk about his chances and how he got to the final in today's episode of Wrestle Extra. Stay tuned.
Yo, this is Wrestle Extra, and I'm very close to the camera. This is Wrestle Extra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate, not joined by my trios team, but my tag team partner, Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will. Gerard is on other business right now. I believe he may join us, but we'll see. He's a busy man, a very busy man. How he even makes time for us, I don't understand. But it is great. It is phenomenal. As Mick said, Ricky Starks is in the final of the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament. Yeah, I got it right. A very long tournament name. Jeez. Ricky Starks defeated, I believe, Juice Robinson in the. No, sorry, Juice Robinson. No, it was Will Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs, in what was was their rubber match in a sense. They've had matches before, one victory each before their match on Collision on Saturday night in Regina. It's a good thing. It's a good thing Max Caster was not there that night. We would have heard something else. In the semi-final of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, Ricky Starks picks up the win in what was a decent match. A few shenanigans, of course, with QT Marshall at ringside with the rest of the QTV folks. Mix, what went down in this match? How did you see the match itself? And what goes from here for Mr. Starks?
Well, like you said, it was a good match. Obviously, these are two friends, brothers, turned foes that were up against each other with Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. And as good as Hobbs is, sort of thing, and you almost expect him to win. I think, like we've been saying for some weeks, Ricky Starks was always kind of the favorite. Ricky Starks has been touted by CM Punk as one to watch within AEW, so it's no surprise that this is the final. They played it well with the ending to the match where, like you mentioned, the QTV guys got involved. Ultimately, what's his face? QT Marshall got in the way of Will Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs picking up the win. And then I think what we did kind of see afterwards, that could be its own conversation, which we'll maybe get to. But Ricky Starks then, hit him with a big spear, got the pin on Powerhouse Hobbs. Progressed to the final, where obviously CM Punk in the main event beat Samoa Joe with a roll up. He got beaten up quite severely, got into another coquina clutch after the match, which may play into the final itself. But Ricky Starks then came out. Obviously, FTR were in the ring, came to save CM Punk, and they've been all four of them been running buddies for the past week. But Ricky Starks kind of drew the line that, okay, we've been dealing with each other the last few weeks, but it's time to be competitors now. Whenever the final is set to be, I've forgotten, but it's interesting that this is probably the biggest position Ricky has had since he faced MJF for the world title in November or December last year. So I mean, listen, this is no world title. This is no really revered tournament like that, apart from obviously celebrating the life of Owen Hart, but it's something. It's something that they're really doing and pushing him towards now that he's in the final. So, kudos to them. And it's going to be interesting to see which way they go.
As you mentioned, since the inception of Collision, about a month ago now, I believe it is, Ricky Starks has been side by side with CM Punk and FTR as they've been taking on Bullet Club. Obviously, Ricky Starks had his own thing with Bullet Club Gold and Juice Robinson. He's also faced Jay White as well. And they've been in matches every single week since the inception. What's nice now is, as you mentioned, CM Punk was beaten by Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe then attacked him after the match as well. FTR came to save Punk. Then you would have expected Ricky Starks, or maybe if this was like last week, for example, Ricky Starks would have been one of them to come out and save as well. He's come to the top of the aisle, but then thought, right. As you said, he drew the line, and I think it's a nice dynamic. FTR looked at him quite puzzled, but it's very obvious why he didn't make his way all the way down there. Obviously, he faces CM Punk in the final of this tournament. A few weeks ago, when we saw the first brackets for this tournament, we kind of made our predictions who was going to get to the final, possibly who was going to win, and we expected it to be we expect it to be what it's going to be with CM Punk and Ricky Starks. There was this possibility of obviously Samoa Joe and Starks, but do you think this is the right way to go? And who wins this tournament and why?
This is the difficult part, because CM Punk is obviously CM Punk. They're not gonna give him the world championship right now, but he may come in and still demand this. He's obviously shown, especially to the public that weren't aware, me being one of them, I wasn't aware of his deep love for Bret Hart and the Hart family and stuff like that. So this may be something that he gets included in on, and he's set to win it because of that relationship he has. In the same breath, like we're saying, does he need this? I mean, what is this? It doesn't really mean anything. Like that's the first thing. Does he need to win it then? Probably not. No, in fact, scratch that. He definitely doesn't need to win this. It's not going to do anything for him. And now, like I was saying, there's the extra caveat of he's picked up an injury in beating Samoa Joe. So maybe that's his out almost. Ricky Starks needs whatever this is. Ricky Starks needs it a lot more. And at least it's a little moniker they can, give him alongside Absolute Ricky Starks. He is the winner of the second ever Owen Hart Tournament. He won it in 2023, defeating CM Punk in the final. That sentence alone will hold enough weight to get him to, get him through a couple months or, a year at least before they decide what they want to do with him next. So he needs a lot more. And more importantly, if CM Punk has now said he's always wanted to work with Ricky Starks, he sees him as a bright kind of, someone that's going to be good for AEW in the future, then this is the time to back your talk. And if there's anyone you need to do a job to, is this guy, to put him over. And because CM Punk, what this will mean, at least for him, giving him that kind of rub. So I would like to think Ricky Starks wins this. And you can do it with a lot of ways. Like I said, there's the injury there that can play into it. There could be some Bullet Club Gold shenanigans that play into it as well. There could be a multitude of things. So we'll see. He doesn't need to beat him clean. That would be another exclamation point if he did. But yeah, there's ways to do it. I'd like to think Ricky Starks is going to win this tournament.
I think it's definitely more important for Starks to win. Just to be able to, and it's not because of the tournament itself. I guess the fact that it's a final helps it a little bit. Doesn't really matter what tournament it was, just a final. As we've already said, this Owen Hart Foundation thing hasn't really, come out. I don't know whether it's the way that they've wanted it to, or it's just not come out in a big way to make you think, right, someone has to win this. When we first saw the brackets, we were like, who are half of these people? Why are half of these people even in this?
Yeah.
That was the other thing that made us think, okay, you lot aren't serious. But I guess in a way, to me, that makes me think that they had a plan from the start. They know who's winning and how it's going to happen and all the rest of it already. I really believe, and it's not just a hope, but I really believe it will be Ricky Starks. As you said, CM Punk doesn't need it. It's not going to do anything for CM Punk. It's not going to make anything different. It's not. I don't think even with CM Punk winning it, it's going to help the Owen Hart Foundation tournament either. So it definitely needs to be Starks. You just need something to bring him back to where he was, a few months ago. He's kind of been quiet up until about a month ago. I think it's very important that CM Punk puts Ricky Starks over in this tournament, in this final, and for the biggest part of it for Ricky Starks to be able to say, I beat CM Punk. However it happens, whether he actually says it afterwards, actually physically says it, who knows? But to have that on his resume would be phenomenal. You mentioned the possibility of shenanigans happening, and in order for Ricky Starks to actually win and beat CM Punk, I strongly believe, or I think a very good way to do it would be for Samoa Joe to get involved. There's been talk of the match between them two probably, having higher stakes, being at a bigger show, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's a way to maybe build to that. So as much as the match has already happened and CM Punk has finally got a win over Samoa Joe in the however 20 years or whatever it is that he's never beaten him, they can still build something else to a bigger show, or something with a bigger stipulation, blah blah blah. I think this is a good way to do it. Both people kind of come out. We as fans get more from it, and not just CM Punk winning something and it looking like he just wants to win and doesn't want to put anyone over, kind of thing. Moving away from Starks. So Starks beat Powerhouse Hobbs. Powerhouse Hobbs had his own little thing with QT. QT, kind of got involved, but it kind of backfired, meaning that, Hobbs didn't pick up the win. And then we had a little conversation between the pair. What happens with Ricky with Powerhouse Hobbs from here?
To Powerhouse Hobbs?
Yep.
Well, it looks like the separation between him and QTV, or QTV, sorry, is on the way, which is a godsend, because we never needed it in the first place. Obviously, their kind of affiliation began when QT got involved in the TNT Championship match with Wardlow. And he was repaying a debt to Powerhouse Hobbs ultimately. So that debt should have just been repaid. You helped me win, like you said you would help me win, and done. There should have been nothing further with that. Him joining this TMZ spin-off, whatever they're doing, like, it just didn't make sense. He was always out of place. Never seen with them in their office when they were doing their shenanigans. But then as soon as he had a match, they were all littered around him and just involved. Look, he's went to beat up QT. What's his name's got in the ring? Aaron Solo. He's beating up Aaron Solo. He's held a spine buster for his troubles. He would have finished QT. How did QT escape again? Or who held him back or something like that?
What was it? What's her name? Just
Harley Cameron. Yeah.
Harley, that's the one.
She dived in front of him. Yeah, that's how he escaped that. So hopefully this leads to some type of official breakup between them. Maybe this wasn't it. Maybe we're still to see something where he actually gets his hands on QT and that's him done. The Book of Hobbs thing, like, I think that was working to an extent before we got to here, and I don't know if they thought he needed a manager or something like that. I don't know if I think he needs a manager. If you want a manager for him, then you can get someone. But I think go back to that gimmick where maybe the manager is kind of saying, well, the Book of Hobbs says this. It was like a commandment or whatever the case
preacher
is.
Or
Like, they don't have to go overly preacher or churchy with it, but just someone that kind of bears the book, almost like a pallbearer, and it's just like, well, we're referring to the Book of Hobbs, and the Book of Hobbs chapter this says whatever the case is, and then that could be interpreted in some whatever kind of pro wrestling way. So I think that has some legs before, if he starts building up some steam with that, then people will start saying, right, this guy needs a title. We've tried to just involve him in the Samoa Joe and Wardlow stuff and put a title on him, and it worked somewhat, and then they took the title off him, and it's just like, what is this? And QTTV, Like, I feel Powerhouse Hobbs is in a good space now. Even this QTTV thing, if we're honest with ourselves, it's been quite short-lived. So people, it maybe for them hasn't worked, hasn't got the reception it needed, and people are still quite invested in Powerhouse Hobbs and don't want to see him doing that. So while the iron is somewhat still hot, lukewarm, whatever it is, like let's move on. Let's keep Powerhouse Hobbs in the limelight. This loss to Ricky Starks isn't that mad because there was an interference, and him and Ricky have prior. So just move him along swiftly onto whatever the next thing is going to be, and let's continue.
I think we'll see, as you said, a couple of weeks before the actual breakup of QTV and with QT Marshall and Hobbs. Moving forward, actually, no, going back a little bit, even when QT first got involved with Hobbs, it wasn't ridiculous, or the thought of it alone wasn't ridiculous. I guess the idea of the QTV thing and all the rest of it, that was what made it. That's what didn't work. Hobbs having a manager wasn't an issue. It was just how it was executed that just didn't work. And we lost the thing that made him popular again to get to that TNT championship. That disappeared as soon as he won the championship. And then within a month or less, he's not champion anymore. And I think that's the problem. Moving forward, I'm in the mindset that, we're getting a bit of a, we've gone from heel Hobbs to, it's probably going to turn into a bit of a face Hobbs. Currently, Luchasaurus, sorry. Christian Cage is the TNT champion. And they're obviously on this heel run and all the rest of it. We need a face who is believable in order, to possibly beat Luchasaurus for that TNT championship. So I'm hoping it's something along those lines. I'm hoping. I see that they are still invested in Hobbs. He's been on the show, however many, almost every week since it started. There's been promos, or the rest of it. He was saying, when it started, he's the face of Collision. Clearly CM Punk, but he's the face of Collision, or the rest of it. So there's something there that they're wanting to do with him. So yeah, I think I'm hoping that's the way it's going to go. Him going back towards that TNT championship. Another, two big guys with Luchasaurus and Hobbs maybe in the near future. And even in between, there could still be so many things and other people he can face. Wardlow, Miro's kind of doing his thing, and all the rest of it. Scorpio Sky, sorry, I had to mention. No one else will. I have to.
Yeah, his match was he had an all right match. Him and Action Andretti. It was a decent match.
Yeah, of course, and he picked up a win on his return. And I'll say nothing more because no one else is going to talk about it. But going back to Hobbs. Yeah, I believe there's still a lot of potential. I don't think he's going to disappear or anything like that. But it's very good that we're not going to continue for too long, at least, with this whole QTV. I think it was just the wrong kind of thing for Hobbs himself. I think QT Marshall is very good at what he's doing, but it just didn't fit Hobbs. That's what it is for me. It just didn't fit Hobbs. It was bad timing. It happened way too early, especially after him winning the TNT Championship or the rest of it. So, yeah, I think he's obviously Hobbs is still on the Book of Hobbs thing in a very subtle way. He was still on his gear or the rest of it. So hopefully we'll still see something more from Hobbs in the coming weeks, and he'll still be in the picture.
Yeah, like I can honestly say, I like QTTV or QTV. I think it's good. Aaron Solo, he's been there on their books for a minute, maybe since the beginning of AEW, and it's still not really a big role for him, but whatever. QT is great. I think the emergence of Harley Cameron, I think she's great. Like, I like what it is. I just think Powerhouse Hobbs has no place in it, at all. It just doesn't work. So yeah, for that reason, keep QTV, but just remove Powerhouse Hobbs from it. And maybe from there they don't get as much airtime and stuff, but it's just a fun little gimmick that they can just throw in to fill segments and stuff like that here and there, and that's what it should be. They just shouldn't associate anyone serious with it.
Right. And even if they wanted to kind of have a big guy to kind of have a bit of a dynamic in visually or the rest of it, could have just gone with the same guy that they had in the factory. What was that big guy's name again? What was his name? Yeah.
The guy with the hair. Camarado.
That's the one. That's the one. I kept with him. You know what I mean? There was no real big investment in him, so it's not like, you know, if you change gimmicks or tweaked here and there, no one would really care. I think the problem is that because it was Hobbs, we already had an idea of how Hobbs is when he was in Team Taz. Before that, when he first came with Moxley, he's a big, powerful, serious, menacing guy. To then put him with a few jokers who are very good at, as we said, very good at doing what they do.
They're very good jokers.
Very, very good. Yeah. But just not with Hobbs. But yeah, so I hope, you know, that's coming to an end. And Ricky Starks, I can see the crowd for Starks during his match was electric, was phenomenal. I don't know if it was simply just because it was a loud crowd, because they generally were loud throughout the show. But it's obvious that there's a following for Starks, and I think they really do need to, you know, keep a consistency with Starks for a long period of time, and push him a little bit more. So we'll hopefully see that. Moving away from the men, but keeping with the whole Owen Hart, we saw that there was supposed to be a match between Willow and Athena for the women's semi-final. But the match didn't happen as Willow's not cleared currently. The match is expected to happen now on Friday on Rampage. I think we've asked this question before, but now that the match has been moved, who wins this? Does it help that we have to wait a little bit longer? Does it make any difference?
It's a tough one. You know, I was saying maybe Willow at first, but it's like the momentum that she would have been coming into this match with, she just slowly lost it. She's lost the New Japan strong title to Julia. She's now got injured in that match as well. They've had to postpone the match until this Friday. I mean, truth be told, there's still really no telling if she can make this match on Friday. I don't know if the injury is actually genuine or kayfabe. Maybe they just needed to put something else on Collision or give another match time. But I have to go with Athena because the work she's doing, I think, is great. I said a couple of weeks ago, if it's not Ruby Soho to get the win of this tournament, to just give her something, for her name within the Outcasts, then it's Athena. It's got to be Athena, because for me, this is the perfect transition to moving her eventually back to AEW. Now, some people argue, does she need to move and all of that kind of stuff? Like, she's having a whale of a time in ROH right now, which is true, but there's a ceiling. Like, eventually she'll have to move over to ROH, and anything she does in AEW has more eyes and will be viewed bigger than winning the ROH women's title. She wins the TBS title in AEW. It's bigger than winning the ROH women's championship. Like, so true. Yeah, I think this would be the perfect way to kind of, it's almost like a reintroduction to the AEW crowd. This is Athena. If you guys remember, she won the women's Owen Hart Tournament. She's not messing. She's coming back over here, very, very soon, or whatever the case is. She's just been great. I think she's just been great. They had a little backstage, mix up of words between her and Willow on Collision. And it's just, you could just see all the questions we used to ask ourselves about what is Athena, who is she, like they're just being
answered.
Actually got
answers.
She's just coming in with a swagger, like, you messed up my day, you made me come to Collision, maybe come to Canada, like, what is this? Like just a confidence about her now, and as long as she can carry that back to AEW whenever that time comes, then they've really got someone in that division. The division is very good, but there is probably like a lack of direction within some of the players in that division. But this is someone that kind of knows themselves, knows what they need to do, and yeah, for me, she has to be in the name, in the hat to win this. Her or Ruby, right now. But her and Willow, I think they should put on a really, really good match. I think Willow needs that as well, because again, she's had success in AEW, but it's not been a lot. And her winning that New Japan Strong Championship, which for sure they will refer to on commentary, she now needs to show them why she can go toe-to-toe with the ROH Women's Champion, or why she won that championship in the first place. But yeah, I think Athena to progress and hopefully take the win of the tournament.
I think it's there are so many good things coming out of this match, or could possibly come out of this match. I think Willow losing the championship helps us answer the question between who's winning, Willow or Athena. I think I'm very much set on it being Athena. I think it kind of has to be now. It wouldn't make much sense if Willow beat Athena with the run that Athena's on right now. The momentum that she's on is just crazy.
Let me just interrupt you and just say, however, the ROH people showing up on AEW TV, the conversion rate has been rubbish. Like, people are on streaks winning in ROH and they come to AEW and just lose. And that's annoyed me. Like, that has really annoyed me. Like, are these supposed to be two different universes or one? I don't think that's quite been outlined either. And I'm hoping you're right. Willow shouldn't really have a chance, to be honest. But if they want to behave like they've been behaving, then we could be in for an upset.
That's a very interesting conversation. I'm definitely gonna come back to it. But to carry on what I was saying as well, what helps here is there's still so many possibilities, regardless of who wins between these two in this tournament, between Willow and Athena. I like what you said about this being a chance for AEW to reintroduce Athena. What could happen is here, whether she wins the tournament or not. If she doesn't win the tournament, she goes back to ROH and loses the women's championship for someone else. It could easily be Willow. I think it'd be great for it to be Willow. But then she comes back to AEW with the swagger that she's got, all the rest of it. I don't think any loss will really, be a detriment to that momentum in the biggest way. And that's a way for Athena to then be back in front, on our TV screens more often with, this, as we said, this character now that is undeniable. It's right where she's at is just undeniable. So she could do things, whether it be TBS, whether she's pushing for the AEW women's, whether she's just around for a while and is a big player in the division for a long time. There are so many other women who can take on the ROH Women's Championship and do and carry on there. Again, what helps is with Willow winning when she won the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, it just gave her that little extra, I can do this in AEW space. We know who she is now. There are she can carry on. I think with Athena, I think it's the perfect time for her to be reintroduced into AEW. The ROH women's thing has been great. But it's not that it's run its course, but if it stops, I don't think anyone's arguing anything. Anyone's going to be really upset if then the next plan is to push her further in AEW. Going back to the point that you made with this ROH AEW kind of thing, we had a very similar discussion when Carmelo Hayes took on Finn Balor the day before he was supposed to take on Baron Corbin to defend his NXT championship. Is there really an issue here with ROH and AEW? They're not, merging, or should it be the case? In my head, I'm thinking they shouldn't have this crossover too often. But if they do, in a very similar way, when NXT comes to WWE, people lose. But there's a reason, because most people that watch WWE are not watching NXT. I think it's a very similar thing. people who are watching AEW aren't watching ROH. So the reason why I say it shouldn't happen often is because those of us that watch it all the time and watch everything and have our eyes on and know more people than the casual fan, we're wanting to see an ROH player come into AEW and win. But it's not going to happen. I don't know. Like, are we also arguing as well that we something that we mentioned in our chat, earlier today, and I think Bully Ray made this a point as well on Busted Open Radio, I believe it was. The ROH needs to have some, more dedication to the show. You said, and I completely agree. It feels like, AEW Dark with a little sprinkle of ROH. That there needs to be some distinction, and then maybe it helps us when or if an ROH player comes into AEW. Like, what are you thinking?
I'll just take these comments here. Big up everyone watching live. Yao Nabi says, I need Athena to beat the brakes off everyone. So yeah, that's ideally what we would like as well. And big up my guy Ches Nasty. He says TK should let somebody else run Ring of Honor because there's no real storylines, just matches. This is my biggest issue with Ring of Honor. And if we remember, you'd go, I used to wake up, was it Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, and then go onto YouTube, and then you'll see 2.5 hours of dark, and it's like, okay, maybe one big name. God knows, who can I use an example? Ricky Starks versus somebody, plus 13 other matches. They literally used to write in the title, plus 13 other matches. And I'm thinking, is this how you promote a show? What? And that's how it feels when I watch Ring of Honor. Like, at first I thought, let me give it the benefit of the doubt. It's newly coming back and everything like that. And then about a month ago, I said, no, this isn't worth my time. Like, it's like we're not really getting much of segments, and it's just like match. Why is it 2 hours as well? Like, I don't think it needs to be 2 hours. And yeah, the whole thing with the universe is it's crazy to me, because it's like, firstly, we wanted Ring of Honor to be Ring of Honor. Like, yes, this man owns it, but we wanted the essence of Ring of Honor to still be in that show. Okay, now you're using the exact same talents that we see on both shows in some capacities. It's still like the lower end of the talents, the mid-carders to the lower mid-carders, but like we don't want that. And then furthermore, I watch Ring of Honor, I watch what they call the Embassy, and these men are 6-man champions are absolutely, they kill everybody. They're murderers. They should be in jail, in fact. Like, they absolutely kill every opponent in front of them in Ring of Honor. And then, like, come, Collision or Dynamite, it's like they don't know how to wrestle. They're jobbers. Like, I find it very hard. But I'm thinking, when I watched this show on Thursday, you told me these guys are killers. And this is what I mean. If you come and do the exact same thing to Athena, I'm gonna be like, bro, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, are they a killer or are they not? With NXT, yes, that exists as well in the past. You have the one caveat of NXT is developmental. So they can get away with it somewhat. But yeah, with Ring of Honor and AEW, I just think you either keep them as two separate things, or if they feed into one another, it's just another promotion. Oh my God, it should be a thing that, oh my God, Brian Cage is here, and Brian Cage is going to come with what he's been doing over there with that kind of energy over here. Like, and that's my only worry. Like, don't use Athena now just as some fodder, because Ring of Honor is your like second show or whatever the case is.
Well, let's be real. With Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, it's the fourth.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why I say it. From your point that you made, this is why I say it needs to not happen so much. It needs to not be a thing where we see the Embassy every single week, or Prince Nana is with Swerve, and then on ROH with Brian Cage and Khan and the rest of them. And that's what you've done, and that's my problem. Is if you're gonna do it, do it.
Yeah.
Keep the same energy, keep the momentum. The better thing to do is to not do it at all. The thing with ROH is it can be saved in the sense of you've got the likes of let's say Sky Blue, for example. You've got the likes of Sky Blue, who is fresh, she's still young, recently signed, she's got a bit of a following, all the rest of it. She should be a focus in ROH and not be then involved in AEW as well. It's stuff like that. I thought they were going to do that with Willow, but you know, in a good way, Willow's kind of stayed on AEW for a time. But yeah, there needs to be this distinction or this purposeful thing, whether if they're going to mix it, keep the energy. If they're not, don't. And make sure that the show that you're putting out for ROH, that's on Honor Club, is very much dedicated. I don't even like the fact that Claudio Castagnoli is the champion, because he's then on AEW every single week in one of the biggest stories on the show, which is absolutely fine. But then he's still the ROH champion and has no storyline apart from a little backstage segment with Briscoe in the back.
It's like, yeah, the stuff with Briscoe, and then like Eddie Kingston's slightly trying to get rid of Claudio, but it's like Claudio is not acknowledging him so much. Like, it's just leave it, man. There's other people that actually need these opportunities.
Of course.
Like, you know, even the likes of the Daniel Garcias. Like, Daniel Garcia could easily be Ring of Honor champion and be so good at it. We saw the amount of spotlight they gave it, especially when Chris Jericho was champion, Ring of Honor champion. Like, there's just certain guys that they have just holding belts. Like, respectfully, Samoa Joe at this point is just holding a belt. The King of TV stuff was brilliant, but they've dropped the ball since then. Obviously, he dropped the TNT title. He re-emerged on TV to have this match with Punk, but what are we doing here?
What then happens with Ring of Honor TV Championship? There's so many people, as we said. Action Andretti's been on there every single week. You've got, you know, so many other people who are there every single week. Shane Taylor, and
I don't mean to be dismissive or rude or anything, but even the likes of Scorpio Sky. Go and make him TV champion over there. Go and make him world champion over there, and like give him something to sink his teeth into. And then maybe one day, you know, people can then think, oh yeah, remember his run of Ring of Honor thing? I'm looking forward to him on Dynamite now. Like, how are they using this product? Is it meant to propel people to Dynamite, or is it just? Maybe it's just a place to feed wrestlers, because that's what he was doing with Dark and Elevation, especially in the pandemic. Maybe it's a place to just feed wrestlers, give them money to go home with and done. Like, maybe we have too high expectations for what it's meant to be.
And that's a possibility. But for me, you know, I've always had, you know, it was nice at first when wrestlers were kind of given a bit of time on Dark, and especially during the pandemic era and all that kind of stuff. It was nice to see faces, because they weren't able to work on indies and all that kind of stuff. It was nice. But that time's gone. That time's passed. Everyone can, you know, people have more opportunities to work, and it may not be the same paycheck, all that kind of stuff, and it probably still works for the wrestlers. And there's an argument in that we don't know this. We're not wrestlers. We're not there 24/7. All the rest of it. But I think now that all that has passed, you know, even with some of the indies, some of them are growing again. GCW, you know, PWG. You know, there's still more stuff going on in the UK with Progress, and even, you know, TNT and other promotions over here as well now. I think they're holding on too much to just matches. It just feels lazy, and that's the problem. It feels lazy when there are still so many people on the books, whether they're officially signed, whether they're closely associated with AEW. There are so many people. The joke is, while I was watching Collision and seeing what's happening with Ricky Starks, I'm like, you know what? I'm actually glad Collision exists, because you've got Ricky Starks, you've got Miro coming back, you've got Andrade, doing his thing. We're seeing him every week. So there's opportunity now for those who have been missed out in this big, massive AEW pond, for them to have something to do again. But then you go and watch ROH, and you're like, oh, the same thing's happening. Why can it not happen there on a smaller scale, as we talk, in terms of people on the card and how well known they are and all that kind of stuff. It's a place to build people for the future. You've got Nick Wayne coming through, who's taking on Swerve. I believe it's going to be on, is it Rampage or Dynamite this week?
Dynamite this week.
Right. My fear is everyone, there's this big thing behind Nick Wayne, and for very good reason. Young guy, very, very good at what he does. There's the fear or the strong possibility that he's going to have a great first 2 or 3 weeks and then disappear. If they want to keep him in AEW, no. Put him in ROH. Let him cook down there, and then when he's ready again, or when they want to use him again in AEW, we're like, this is Nick Wayne. He did this, that in ROH. Boom. There are so many people you can say that about, and Action Andretti is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Came through, defeated Chris Jericho. Now what? And that's the issue here.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's because even with once you said that, I said, well, it's almost akin to the situation of John Cena coming through and having that match with Kurt Angle or whatever the case is, and like, Andretti's been given spots and stuff, but I just feel that because they gave the win to someone that Jericho liked and said, yeah, I'll do this for the kid, but do they like him? Does the office like him? Does the office feel like he's gonna be? And it's the same thing with Nick Wayne. Like, without doubt, Nick Wayne is a massive talent, but let's not kid around. This is Darby's guy. Darby's brought him in, probably with a great reference from Swerve as well. From their time in Defy and stuff. But he's a young talent, which could probably do very well, make them a lot of money. But at the end of the day, no matter who the promoter is, we know they all see their talent as toy figures, and it's like, I want to play with him today, I want to play with this guy today. And if any day you fall out of love with the promoter, then you may not get a chance. Put in Action Andretti, put in Nick Wayne on Ring of Honor. The fact of the matter is, you still need to book them in stories. Match. Yeah. Nick Wayne's been doing that on the indies for well over 2 years at this point, and that's what's got him here. So can he do everything else apart from just have back-to-back matches and do all the flippy stuff? And this is where we're really gonna see, has someone got the minerals to be a wrestler?
Are we thinking? You mentioned it earlier. Are our expectations too high? In the sense where ROH was very much the indie promotion, probably the top one, in its heyday and all the rest of it. With the essence of ROH, with it also not being a TV show, because it's still, a YouTube or a streaming service that you have to go and find to watch it. Are we expecting too much when we're asking for storylines and not so much match? Because if you go and watch the indies, there's no storylines whatsoever. It is match. Are we expecting too much because AEW own it now? Or should that be the reason why we should expect more?
I think this is another issue with AEW. Even with the tournaments they've done, so like this blind eliminator tournament that's on TV now, no brackets. They said they're going to give us brackets, no brackets. We don't know what to expect. They bring back Ring of Honor, right? Everyone's on a nostalgia trip. Yeah, Ring of Honor used to be great. This should be great. It's in great hands with AEW. AEW have had good programming, but we don't know what to expect. Is this going to be a show showcasing indie talents? Is it going to be showcasing lower card AEW talents? Is it going to be showcasing the young talents and people we're developing almost? Like, we just don't know. So we don't know what to expect. So our expectations are all over the place. They need to kind of, address that. And then maybe people can then decide whether I want to watch this or I don't want to watch it. if they said this is for young talents, I don't know, people may not switch off because people like to see people coming through and learning, and that was the essence of NXT. Way before they went on their indie trip, basically eating up Ring of Honor and everyone else, and then obviously what happened with NXT happened. But like, just get some defined. Let's know what we're watching in it. Like, okay, it's not on TV, but if this is a TV show, you flick the channel, it gives you a description of the show you're watching on TV. Now we know AEW is obviously primetime wrestling television. Ring of Honor is not that. So how would you describe Ring of Honor? Like, what is it? Is it a niche indie show? Blah blah. Like, how would you describe it? And that's what we need to get down to, the essence of that, and then maybe the show along with another booker, because TK he's very good at his job, but he's spread too thin. He's booking Collision now as well. Like, give Ring of Honor to someone that works there. Jerry Lynn is right there. Like, give it to someone, like, and let them run with it. Like, you don't have to do everything.
And that's what's crazy. Like, you're talking about TK booking this and everything. I've got like a little wrestling game on my phone, and you do booking. It's fake. Yeah. It's not any associated whatever else. It's great though. And I'm trying to play this while I'm living life, and I'm struggling.
It's hard.
This is one app on my phone. You know what I mean? Imagine that real life with hundreds of real people, with consequences of real outcomes, and when I say that, I mean making money, getting people in the doors of arenas and stadiums and blah blah blah. If I mess up on my game, well, I can just turn it off and carry on and find something else to do. He can't do that. This is his life. So why are you going to do that and spread yourself so thin? There's a, I don't know the guy. None of us know the guy, but there's just this level of arrogance, I feel, or this control. If not the arrogance, at least a level of control that he feels he has to have. Yeah. It doesn't need to be that. He needs to be better at delegating. Basically, is not that type of leader. You know what I mean? Just needs to learn to delegate, and as you said, the issue isn't so much with ROH. The issue isn't so much there needs to be a defined purpose for what the show is. There needs to be a defined purpose for what the show is. Is it going to be like Dark? And if that be the case, all right, do that. Is it going to be like a TV show wrestling with storylines and all the rest of it? All right, no problem. Tell us that it's that. Is it about building the next stars, or giving us nostalgic matches, or giving us nostalgic guys like Christopher Daniels, for example, or building up the next Action Andretti, Nick Wayne, whoever, Sky Blue? Tell us that it's that. But you can't be all of those in one, and we're struggling. You know what I mean? And I think that in general, I think that's been the issue with AEW over time. Whatever they start it well. But after a short time, it just becomes whatever. And I think that's their issue.
There's going to be questions. Athena versus Willow, there's going to be questions. If Willow wins, you're going to be like, well, she's just beaten a world champion. How much weight do we really put into this Ring of Honor stuff? And then, does Athena still look as menacing now if she's lost? If Athena wins, it's going to be like, right, well, she's just beaten someone that's basically at this point an AEW mainstay. Surely she should work her way through the AEW division somewhat. Like, nothing is clear. Nothing at all. We'll just have to see how this match goes and who then goes on to win the tournament for the women. But I just think they need to really tighten up public perception of these shows, so you know kind of what to expect, or they can tell better stories of what to expect. Like, if Athena's coming from Ring of Honor, is she an underdog? Like, can they tell that story on commentary? Like, we just need to know.
And on the final point on that whole thing as well is the fear now is, we mentioned Samoa Joe. Obviously, he's the ROH TV champion, but we've seen him only on AEW. We talk about wanting to see Athena on AEW often, but I think she has to lose that Ring of Honor Women's Championship if that's going to happen. She can't run around AEW with the Ring of Honor Women's Championship, even with the great character, blah, 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 because then it means ROH loses out. So there has to be that distinction as well.
Which again is completely unfair because Claudio is running around with the men's Ring of Honor title, not literally just wearing it like a prop. Like he's not even like having matches defending it much or anything. Maybe on Rampage, but yeah, not on Dynamite. So
I mean, which Ring of Honor champion is only on Ring of Honor?
Oh yeah, that's another point.
No one.
Yeah.
No one. You'll see them on AEW often. I think it's only the Pure title, but even then, you don't see the Pure title every week on ROH either. No. So it's a bit of a crazy one. Moving away from AEW because my heart pumping a bit too hard. We need to calm down. So we talked about Ricochet and Logan Paul last week. They had their little head-to-head on Raw yesterday. Talk me through, Mix, what went down when Ricochet and Logan Paul went head-to-head on Raw yesterday.
So yeah, Ricochet came out, and this was him following up from calling out Logan Paul. Just said that, you know, he's been in the business for, what was it, he said 15 20 years or something like that. Yep. One thing, you know, if you don't like him, then cool, but one thing he won't take as an insult is unprofessional. He's done everything professionally throughout his entire career, and yeah, he's basically not going to take that. And Logan Paul came out, they had their war of words, and Logan Paul said, like, you know, everyone knows who I am and all of this kind of stuff. And you know, Ricochet, in terms of the segment, Ricochet went on, there was a parts where he was interrupted by the crowd cheering, taking his side, insulting Logan Paul. But I feel like for someone that is not overly confident with promos, that not that it knocked him, it's just that he didn't necessarily need that. But he let them do their thing. Like, I'm sure, because when you're not confident with something, you prepare it, you overthink it in your head. I'm sure he had a way of, this is how this needs to go. And, you know, with the crowd participation, that probably threw him a bit at times. Nothing major, but yeah. He then repeated that famous spot that he done against a certain man that we shall not name in NXT, which looked brilliant. But to be honest, it was better the first time. It's kind of like a one-trick thing. Like, you can't repeat that sort of thing. As well as he did it again, it was just like the first time it was just sensational. Like, no one was expecting it. Logan Paul sold it. They had a little pull-apart brawl outside the ring and stuff like that. My heart has suffered. I know I was saying, obviously, he's going head-to-head with Logan Paul, someone very confident, has been talking all of his life to cameras and stuff like that. I watched Ricochet go through this, even a segment just at the beginning of the segment before Logan Paul came out, and I said, wow, you can see, like, this doesn't come naturally to him. Like, and I saw somebody tweet, which actually got me quite frustrated. I can't lie. I saw someone tweet that that Ricochet should be better than this. How can he let Dom go past him? Now, this annoyed me, and like I said, I'm not Ricochet's biggest fan when it comes to the microphone, but this annoyed me because we can never compare the two. We're comparing, and my tweet was something along the lines of, we're comparing a Hall of Famer's son to somebody that has literally been, for his 20 years that he says, probably been said, you're a wicked wrestler, just go out there and wrestle.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know how many times Ricochet's been given that length of time he was on Monday Night Raw to go out there and cut a promo. In NXT, I can maybe think once and twice against the guy we will not mention. He had the program with Adam Cole. There was probably some stuff in there as well. And he's verbally jousting against Adam Cole, one of the best in the industry. Like, you could count probably on one hand in the last five years how many promos this guy has really went out there and cut. So for you to come and compare him to Dom, now Dom is good. The crowds are carrying it a lot currently anyway. But Dom's nothing special. But for you to say that this guy is the son of a Hall of Famer, who Rey Mysterio is not renowned for his speaking either, but he is still the son of a Hall of Famer who has watched this throughout his entire life. You know, he's been put in the ring in WWE with stars, with legends to kind of help and carry those segments. Like, as good as Dom has been, and I give Dom a lot of credit, it's nepotism to its finest. He's been well looked after in WWE. So to compare this situation to Dom, I just think it's totally unfair. This is a man that's trying against someone that is literally being molded in front of our eyes. To be, you know, a somebody in the next 5 to 10 years. Like, Dom is on TV every week. Has been since the pandemic. So come on, let's be serious. And like I'm saying, Ricochet probably should, in his development of cutting promos, be a lot further down the line than he is. But when you've been wrestling indies, when did he come to WWE? 2018?
Yes. Yeah.
And from then, in his 20-year career, that's probably the first time people would have said to him, right, you need to start learning how to speak on the mic. Because before that, it's literally just go out and wrestle, go out and wrestle, go out and wrestle. So, like, we have to be very, you know, use sense. Use your brain when you're coming out and saying certain things. Because although we all know Ricochet should be better, like, don't compare him to someone that is being gifted the opportunities. Ricochet doesn't get those opportunities.
And here's the thing, if you want to do the whole comparison with Dom as well, as you said, you know, he's very much over right now, but it is the crowd that's carrying him, as well as 3 other people in the Judgment Day.
Stars around him, yeah.
Who are the ones who are speaking on the mic. Dom doesn't actually speak a lot. Dom does not actually speak a lot. And it's not even just the booing thing. You could take that away. Even before that, he didn't actually speak a lot. He'd probably only retaliate to someone else speaking to him. Before the whole Judgment Day, it was Rey Mysterio speaking all the time, or Edge when they had their little thing. Before that, Logan Paul and The Miz. Like, Dom doesn't actually speak a lot. So what's the I don't understand what the comparison would actually be. Going back to Ricochet and his promo, when I put on Raw this morning, the first thing I did was, you know, see what else was going on. But I'm fast forwarding to see what happens with Ricochet and Logan Paul. I see Ricochet in the middle of the ring, and I'm so scared. I'm just like, how is this going to go down?
Very foreign.
Right. But, you know, given we say all the time here, you've said it already as well, that he's not known for his mic skills. He's not been the best. He's not great, blah, blah, blah. He did that. I think he did absolutely fine in terms of the expectation that I personally had. Logan Paul then comes out, of course, and, you know, carries it on and all the rest of it. I don't think Ricochet really did anything bad. Obviously, you know, he then does the flip over the ring. We've seen it before. It wasn't the same, but the crazy thing is, like, when he did it the first time, I was like, oh my God, that's phenomenal. I cannot wait for him to do this in WWE. Now that I've seen it, I'm like, oh, yeah, all right, fair enough. And it wasn't because of what he did. It was more so the reaction of the crowd.
Yeah, they didn't really sell it.
The crowd did not react to it the same way that the crowd did when it happened on NXT.
People were off their feet, and because they have that metal grating at the bottom of the ramp, and he landed on that, and it made like a loud clap, like everyone was like, "Whoa!" Like,
it was a completely different thing. You know, I've watched that video over and over and over again, and when at a point you start actually watching what Ricochet did, and you're watching the crowd and how they reacted. You couldn't do that with this one. I've seen it on WWE's social media, all the rest of it. I looked at the crowd and I thought, okay, I don't need to watch them again. You know what I mean? It just didn't happen the same way. But I think that brings up a point of the difference between NXT and WWE, the casual fan in WWE to, you know, the type of fans that you get in NXT. But do you think that maybe to a point as well, Ricochet was still quite fresh, even in NXT when he did that. Whereas now we've seen Ricochet do all sorts of flips and tricks and all the rest of it. Do you think that kind of watered that moment down a little bit? for the crowd.
I just think this time round it was. It's a different kind of crowd, man. NXT is a very kind of rabid family as opposed to like a live wrestling crowd.
True.
And like I say, he does that with, you know, over the top, the sound when he lands, the kind of slow looks up, the camera angle as well. Like they got it from behind the guy when they done it the first time. This time they done it on Raw. It was like side on as he jumps out the ring. Yeah. So that as well. And yeah, I just think maybe the live crowd even thought, oh yeah, we've seen this before. Like some of them that have seen it doesn't particularly wow them. Yeah, I just feel like with NXT, that period, I might have to write a dissertation on this one day. That period of NXT was different, bro. I see nothing like that anywhere since ever it will again. Like literally, like so. I think it's very hard to compare it to then, but after now seeing it again, I like he probably thought I'll be well impressed if I see that again, and it's just like, yeah, that didn't quite work as well as the first time.
It's so weird though that moments like that, you know, we see once in a while and whatever else, and it's a possibility of it not wiring us the same way, but yet on a week-to-week basis, we're seeing people do the same moves every single week. And we're still reacting like it's the first time we've seen it.
Wrestling fans, eh?
this is wrestling for you. This is the crazy world of pro wrestling. On that note, this is now the end of our show. You have been watching the Wrestle Extra on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel so you can see this guy Mex post all his reactions videos to AEW, WWE, and everything else in between. Don't forget to also follow this guy Mex on the Wrestling's channel with the rest of the boys with Wrestling's. You can follow me, A Dazzle, on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram, BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Guys, this has been our show. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next time.
Take care, guys.